Okay, thank you, Ian. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pick up the s- screen. And what we thought would be really useful is to just a walk through of what we've got on the website and the web pages. Um, a really interesting feature with SFIA having this long track record of use is that people are actively using it. So we need to be really careful about how we keep on supporting that. And we can tell from the website stats, looking at where people land and where they go, that an increase in number of people over the last few years have been coming directly to the skills pages. So they're not going via the home page. They're not searching on Google to find SFIA as a search term. They've actually got these links embedded into their workflows or their documents or their personal browsers or skills tools that they're using. So what that has meant, when we see the stats, it's about half the visitors are going directly to skills. So they're actually using it on a day-by-day basis. So that's really encouraging. It's not just oh, we'll find something interesting to look at. They actually want to use the skill definitions. But we want to help that. And what it's meant with the going directly to the skills, some of the principles behind it, what the levels mean, are not obvious to people if you're just using it on a day-to-day basis. So we wanted to find a way to bring that learning, how to use SFIA, into the most popular pages that people are visiting, but without getting in the way of people who are very familiar with it. So we're trying to get a balance. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate to you. So this page, the A to Z page, prior to this year was just a long list of the skills. There's no searchable ability there. It was just come here and page down. And again, we could see that people were having to page down. And if you were looking for a skill that started with the later in the alphabet, you had to scroll down quite a few pages to get to that. So we thought we'd do something to help with that. So we've added a search. The search is on the content of the skill and has some quite interesting features for us. So that if you come into SFIA and you don't actually know the name of the skill you're looking for, which is perfectly reasonable if you're new to it or you're just trying to find what the skills might be for your role, that you might be typing in, for example, a role title. So we went for a data engineer, and then what's that given us? There's no SFIA skill called data engineer, but it starts to match up with some potential skill matches that might be relevant for that. So it's cutting down the list, making the search a bit easier for people. And we could try something a bit broader, like a solution designer. Now, that means lots of things to different people. So we don't know exactly what they're looking for, but we come up with, again, with a set of skills that might be relevant to that. So it's narrowing the list, making it more usable in that way. If you are familiar with SFIA and you know that exactly where you wanted to go, so you might be saying, well, let's say I'm looking for workforce planning. You can type in the name of the skill, it'll go directly to it. And once people get used to SFIA, they get very used to the 4-letter skill codes, and people would talk about exactly what they are actually looking for. So they might go for the WFPL, which for someone who doesn't know, SFIA doesn't mean anything, but that takes them directly to the skills they may be looking for. So that's worth a try out. That search facility has been quite well received in terms of being able to make things easy to use. Another feature we've got there, which part of us learning as people use SFIA and give us feedback. Over this side, the column called tags. It's not the best name in the world, but what that's about was, while we were going through the beta phase, I added that column so that people who were reviewing SFIA 9 content could see what the change had been. Now, I hadn't intended that to be something we'd keep for a while, but it has been noted that actually, as people get used to the new version of SFIA, that's quite a useful reminder as they're looking through these things. Are these new skills? Is it an existing skill? What size the change it is? It's only a headline version. There's not a lot of information we can fit into that space, but we're going to leave that for a while to help people get used to what's in SFIA 9. This Excel sheet is the gold mine if you really want to dig underneath it. So if you're using SFIA for your roles or wanting to investigate in depth, that goes into far more detail about exactly what's changed. So that's available as a link. Now we've got the generic attributes that Ian said. So they're now also searchable as a list there. So you can find those, and you can see those that in the same style as the skills, but they're focused on the element of behavioral factors and generic attributes. So again, bringing some familiarity to how people can use SFIA. What I'm going to do now is go and look at a particular skill. So again, let's look for stuff in the realm of the user experience. So I'm going to pick on user experience design and use that as an example to show you what we've done to the skills pages. So remember, our aim here is that people visit these pages, but not always familiar what the levels might mean. So what we've done is to add some visual features to this to make it more relevant. The readability things that Ian talked about. So we've got the name, we've got a short description, which gives a quick reminder or a immediate recognition of what this skill is about. The guidance notes are to help people apply this skill into their own environment, into their own workplace, into their own industry. SFIA is a framework. It's not prescriptive. So when we get to the actual level descriptions, they are quite general language. If we tailor them too specifically, then the levels wouldn't mean to some people, but they would for others. So we try and have the balance that says, with the guidance notes there, that helps give some ideas about how you might apply this skill in the workplace. That's been well received. And what we've done for SFIA 9 is expand that across all the skills to the same level. With SFIA 8, we've done it for some, but not all. I'm trying to expand that. So just about every skill now has comprehensive guidance notes of about this length. Right, so we now got the levels here. So we've got a little bar here that shows the levels. If you're familiar with SFIA, you'll know why not all skills appear at all levels. And if you're not familiar, you're getting used to using SFIA, we've got an explanation there, which is understanding what the responsibility levels are. So this explains why lower levels may not be defined, why high levels might not be defined to help position it. But putting it in that format, we can make sure it's hidden if you don't need to see it. The benefit we got from the essence statements that Ian mentioned was not planned, but as we worked through this, we realized we could use it in this way, that we can attach it now to each of the skill levels. So in this case, user experience design level 3, the professional skill is described in the yellow box, and the generic level of responsibility is described under there. So those in combination, that diagram that Ian showed, that's what we're visibly showing now, is that the combination of both of those is what your professional competency is. These can really help if people are not quite sure which level they might be operating at, or what level a job needs, or how to assess someone. You can actually use these in conjunction together. And we know, because these are the same for all skills, that you're getting this ability to see across different skills, help with job mobility, help with comparison, help understand how development paths can move between skills, between roles, etc. So again, that's something I think would be really useful. But once you're used to that, or you don't need it because the purpose, you can hide those. So that's part of it with there. The other navigation thing we have is over this side, which is the related skills. Now, the nature of work is that skills aren't in isolation. Skills are usually work together with other related skills. Certainly when we put together roles, we think about, well, actually this role needs a handful of skills. It's not just one. So to help navigate and find those, we have this section over here, which looks at some of the related SFIA skills. And clicking on there will take to the full definition of those. So people get quite familiar with navigating to one, going horizontally across to there, coming back again, etc. So that works quite nicely as a visual way of seeing what's in the framework without having to go up and down to a hierarchy of skills. If there's interest in going back a version, so if you're looking at this and saying, well, what does SFIA 8 looks like? That's easily done through that link there. And then here we've added the notes that explain what's changed for SFIA 9. So this will be of real interest to people who are moving to SFIA 9, which we'll talk about later, and just gives a summary of what's in there so people can track through. If you're familiar with this skill and you're thinking, well, what's changed? there's the clues about what's actually happened and changed. And then finally, over this side, we have the ability to go back to that A to Z search directory. We can go and look at the levels of responsibility, which I'll do shortly. We can look at the skills profiles. So that's where we've got this set of industry standard profiles with suggested SFIA skills. And we can also link through to the body's knowledge, which is the directory of those that Ian mentioned. So the aim of that is to try and make things much more easy to use. And we're responding to the fact we have lots of people using SFIA and wanting to come to the site and use it to help them. Now, that has carried forward now into how we look at the levels of responsibility. So for previous version, they've kind of been described in a different way. But what we've had is the feedback, well, why can't you describe those in a similar way that you did the good work on the skills for SFIA 8? So we've now looked at how we can do that. So each of the levels has got the essence statement that Ian showed on the slide. And then as we open these up, we've then now got a familiar look to it now, where we've got the name. We're using the essence statement as that short summary. We've got some guidance notes there, and then we break down the level into the familiar attributes we've got. The big bonus we've got now is that having worked out or been able to allocate each of the behavioral factors, we're able to make those much easier to see. So instead of being a paragraph of text, we're able to make those a bit more obvious in terms of what behavioral factors are what within there. What that then gives users to the ability to do is start to think about, well, which of those, how do I prioritize those for the work that I do or for the roles that we need, and be able to give some sort of weight in prioritization so that actually, in this particular role that we've got operating at level 3, these might be the ones that are most important for us. So some more directed focus, development, or coaching conversations, or performance in terms of what's really important to make this role work. So that looks really helpful for people there. And then the other bit we can look at is to dig underneath the attributes. So I'll pick autonomy as an example. So now you see again, this looks very much like the professional skills, a name, a code, short description, guidance notes, and then the levels. And then if we look at one of the other ones, maybe communication, more of a behavior there. So we've got the same look and feel. The name, the code, short description, guidance notes about what SFIA means for that, and then the levels there. So what we're trying to do is to give people a really useful way to get hold of and consume what's within SFIA. The principles haven't changed. The mechanism working hasn't changed, but we're trying to make it much easier to people to use based on the fact that we see people coming direct to these pages. The document that Ian mentioned, so this is the one now that really explains how these things fit together, and we've made the effort to put lots of little graphics in here to make this more visually appealing and easier to follow. So I definitely recommend you look at that. It's a way of seeing what's in there.